Hey you! Yeah you! This here's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Guide for Dummies. And I, your host, ArnarJohn, am going to talk about monsters, spell cards, and trap cards like no other in this universe. Yes, no longer shall you become a Yu-Gi-Oh! Dummy after you finish this tutorial.
Happy birthday!
Right, so when it comes to having monsters on the field, you can't just have them slap them on the field like you did in the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! You got a normal summon. A normal summon, you can only do it once per each and every turn unless you have a spell card or card effect that says otherwise. Now, the first step of normal summoning, you normal summon a level 4 or lower, like this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. Now, let's take these guys away. Anyone in level 4 or lower, you can normal summon without any problem. But when it comes to the slightly higher level monsters, like level 5 or 6, you require at least one tribute summon. So let's go in here and have some demonstration. We want to summon this guy because he's super cool and whatnot. His name is Yugioh, and so let's say first turn, you summon this guy. He somehow miraculously survived the turn. Now we tribute this guy, send him to the graveyard, and summon this guy. And say, hey, opponent, this guy's pretty cool. But when it comes to like normal summoning a level 7 or 8 or 9 or but beyond, then you have to tribute at least 2 monsters or more. Like this guy over here. He's super special. He requires 3 guys. He's a real prick about it. Now then, let's put these cards back over here into the Shadow Realm. And this guy over here too. Now then, we have the Blue Eyes White Dragon, the most iconic card in the set, and Dark Magician. But we can't summon them because we won't get 1 monster. So we have this guy on the field, and he somehow miraculously survives this turn. Now we can choose either these 2 and tribute these 2, put it over here in the graveyard, and bam! We got a Blue Eyes White Dragon on the field. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. Now then, that's the normal summon mechanic. We're done with that. Let's talk about something more juicy like, I don't know, battle. Yes, we're gonna talk about battle. Now, when it comes to battle, we have a lot of variants of combinations when it comes to battle. When it comes to battle, yes, battle. We have at least to summon a monster on the field. So, this is our guy. He has 1,900 attack points and 1,200 defense points. And that's just lovely. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck is attack points and defense points? Well, dummy, you gotta go and see here. When he's in this position, he's attacking. He's in attack position. That means only this stat affects the outcome of the battle, unless something else is said, like shield and sword, or I swap the attack and defense points. But now when he's like this, he's in defense position. Same applies when he's put this down like over here. I didn't explain in the summoning mechanic, but you can actually just waste your normal summon on this. There's no action behind it, but it's stall tactic. Now then, our guy is in attack position. We're gonna battle something epically. Now, when it comes to this scenario over here, we do no damage on a defense position monster because our monster have no special abilities. So, except for he has high attack. So let's go and attack this guy. Bop! We flip this guy up and he has 0 defense. That means he gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard. Now then, if the situation was like this, we had our monster on the field, our opponent's normal summon this guy, he just recklessly, hey, we have both 1,900 attacks, let's go attack. And we're like, oh no, we both die. And then they both go to a graveyard. That's what happens when both monsters have the same amount attack. as each other. Now then, this monster over here, he has something we call a piercing damage. So, let's say if we had a monster like this in defense position, and our opponent like, hey, I want to summon a monster. He summoned this guy, and he attacks. Now, since our guy has less defense than this guy, like earlier, he gets destroyed. But not only that, because he has piercing damage, he can do damage to us this time. So we have a monster right over here with 1,200 defense. He has a monster with 1,900 attack. We lose 700 life points. So the difference between the attack and defense when it comes to piercing damage, your opponent can do damage to you. That's simple as that. Now then, on to another scenario. This is our main guy, War's Raider. And he's a big underdog. But what happens when our big guy with big attack encounters a monster with higher defense? So, here we have another guy over here. War's Raider, attack! And then, giant soldier of stone? What? What happens? What just happened? He has 2,000 defense. Our guy has 1,900. What happens now? Well, dummy, you get attacked. No, I'm just saying you lose life points. Simply as that, you lose life points. In the difference between his higher defense and yours. So we lose just 100. It's no big deal. But it might be in the end. But yeah, this is what happens in combat in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now there are other type of various scenarios that I would like to go over battle. But for now, this is as basic when it comes to monster encounters as possible. Alright, so let's see here. I forgot to mention what happens when we have one monster with in attack position and another monster that is with slightly more attack position. Anywho, so our opponent has a Dark Magician who has 2,500 attack points. We have Blue Eyes White Dragon who has 3,000 attack points. Now what happened is when we declare an attack on our opponent, Bop, he loses his monster, he goes to the graveyard, but also he loses 500 life points. And I see you on the topic on monster card effects. Goodbye. So let's go talk about monster card effects. Now, there are many different variants when it comes to monster card effects. Monster card effects happens to be like, okay, we normal summon this guy, Breaker the Magical Warrior. Now, here's what we call an on-summoning effect. He gets this thing called a spell counter, a single piece of spell counter on him. And what does the spell counter do? Well, in another form of his text, it says he gets additional 300 attack. That means he's like as big as our War's Raider over here. He has the same amount of attack, but this guy has effect that can easily do fun stuff. So let's say Breaker's on our side, and our opponent has set Spell Trap on his side. And what Breaker has, you can remove one spell counter from this card and destroy one Spell Trap card. This is what we call an ignition effect. An activation effect, also. It's kind of complicated how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works. But you don't need to worry. All you need to know is he lost his attack boost by destroying this card, this trap card, and put him in the graveyard. Now then, let's go talk about another kind of effect. Remember Jinzo? He has what we call a continuous effect. So let's say our opponent has set a trap card before we summon this guy, and he wants to activate his trap card. Now Jinzo has a special continuous ability that says your opponent cannot activate spell trap cards on the field. So he's like, I'm going to activate this one. And Jinzo says, get your ass out of here. And there are lots of very different methods when it comes to continuous effect. Like, he cannot be destroyed by battle, or, I don't know. I honestly don't know. It has also top like you cannot be targeted by card effects. So mostly these continuous effects are like non-stop and they don't count as activations. So when like let's say your opponent says, "I'm gonna stop your effect," like you can't. It's continuous. It's not activation. And he's like, drat, that's stupid. Now then. So we explained monsters that can activate certain effects, what happens when it comes to combat. But let's talk about special requiring summoning mechanic. Remember this guy? What I said he needs 3 guys? Well, I wasn't kidding. It literally says here, requires 3 tributes to summon the normal summon this guy. So he is not only wasting our 1 normal summons, that means we have to have, I don't know, the Breaker, War's Raider, Soldier of Stone. They all have to survive at least 1 or 3 turns. Or we somehow miraculously summon them without even knowing it. But in order to summon Obelisk, the Tormentor, we have to warm up. And what do we get? Well, Obelisk has his own special continuous effect that says, your opponent cannot target with card effects. Card effects is like every effect you can think impossible, like spell, trap, and monsters, and so on. But we have also another kind of specific summoning mechanic. It is called, I like to call these guys the Magnivorium effect. See this one right over here? Yeah, he requires 3 monsters on the field. He requires Alpha, the Magnet Warrior, Beta, the Magnet Warrior, and Gamma, the Magnet Warrior. Now, he's in our hand. We somehow summon all of these 3 guys and they somehow miraculously survive the turn, and we can tribute them. But unlike Obelisk, this guy can be special summoned. Meaning, we do not need to wait for 4 turns to summon this guy. We only need to wait 3 turns if we sacrifice our normal summon. That is to say. And he has no other effects. This is literally his only effect. And some monsters do have high value summoning requirement, and usually those monsters are not popular in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. So we talked about normal summon and somewhat special summon, because special summon is like an infinite phenomenon in Yu-Gi-Oh. It's like there's no limit to that. You literally just can special summon from any time point, but the only thing you need to do is follow requirement, like we showed you with Valkyrian the Magnet Warrior. This guy over here, he has specific summoning requirement, just like Obelisk, somewhat similar to Obelisk, but you don't sacrifice your normal summon for it. Now, I would like to turn to our extra deck, because we're going to teach you how to fusion summon. Now, when it comes to fusion summoning, we have a thing called extra deck. It says somewhat blurry on the text over here, but I used to call it fusion deck. So if you're an old school player, like, what the heck is an extra deck? It's not a deck where you put extra cards in. I'll tell you that. It's not like you have an option to draw from your main deck or from your extra deck. Like, dude, are you kidding me? That's something a dummy would do. Anywho, I'm going to teach you about spell cards! Interacting with monsters. And we put this guy over here. And where's he? Those guys don't fusion summon. You see, we have monsters in the extra deck. This one is connected to this one, and this one is connected to this one. But we need some monsters. And you're probably all wondering, why the heck is there a spell card here? Now, listen, if we have these 2 guys in our hand. God damn it, this field is so annoying. There we go. or we have these two in our hand or on the field. This is where polymerization is a spell card, and spell cards you can activate if they have no requirement whenever you want on your turn. There are different types of spell cards that allow you to activate on your opponent's turn, so we will go through that later. Now, polymerization works like this. You need, if you have a fusion monster in your extra deck, right over here, and you have the materials for it, aka the monster that are listed within the name of the text, like you see here. It's really hard to see. Well, it says over here, Dark Magician and Buster Blader. Sorry about the blurry text. This is my first ever recording with my new thingy, new equipment. And I will tell you this. You just need these monsters that are listed on these cards, and you need to have at least some method to bring them both together. Now, let's say this is our hand. This is our hand, and our opponent has these guys on the field, and they're like, all right, cool. I use polymerization. I've used these two guys from my hand and summon this guy from my extra deck. And now fusion monsters, they don't all have effects. Those are called normal fusion monsters. And some fusion monsters are like really annoying about their fusing mechanic because, let me see if does this one say it? Must be fusion summoned. That means if you somehow miraculously activate a card effect that says, put cards from your extra deck to the graveyard, and you want to activate Monster Reborn or some method to bring him back on the field, you can't do that. That's impossible. Because he says, must be fusion summoned. But when you do fusion summon him, and he gets destroyed, you can then revive him somehow. It's kinda annoying with that. But this is, by far, literally majority of what you need to know about when it comes to monsters. There are other different methods of summoning monsters. We'll go through that in the future. But for now, we're done with the monsters. Let's jump on to the spell and trap cards. First off, I'm clear the board, and we can go into that.